What up? So you have taken another wrong turn right at Albuquerque instead of a left, and have wound up here at Matinee Prices. Once again, I'm Huru. This is Cameron. And today, to prove that we're not just all adult blood and gore and sex and violence, I mean we are, but to prove that we're multifaceted and amphibious and ambidextrous. Today's topic, we're doing kid-friendly shows. Shows that you could watch with your kids, or you could leave the room for about 10 minutes or so and not have to worry about your kids being scarred for life.
But we're going to try to talk about this is and I want to say this is going to be a two-part episode. So watch this episode. Watch this episode and then tune in next week. Watch this episode and tune in next week for part 2, because that's going to be also kids movies. But I feel like the theme with the movies that we are going to talk about, it's not just movies that you want to just sit down your kid and let them watch it. It's like these are movies that adults enjoy also.
Right.
Whether it be the content, the style of animation, the cast. I feel like one of the selling points of any kids movie, especially nowadays with the animated films that Pixar and DreamWorks are doing, is that kids movies are always trying to tout the fact that it's like there's stuff for adults also. Yeah. It's not just for kids.
Yeah.
So we're going to discuss 4 movies that we feel fit that criteria. And Huru's going to get the ball rolling.
So I'm going to start with a Studio Ghibli film. Now, for those of you who don't know, where the heck have you been and what the heck have you been doing?
Exactly.
Princess Mononoke,
Kiki's Delivery Service.
Spirited Away. If they were going to know something, they would probably know Spirited Away.
Or maybe Howl's Moving Castle.
That was it. But yeah, Spirited Away was the one that kind of broke the walls
and won the Oscar.
And won the Oscar.
For film. I'm 90% sure.
So this is Hayao Miyazaki. I believe is how you pronounce his name. Don't quote me on that. But he's considered the sort of the Walt Disney of Japan. He's like 75 years old. He's been doing this animation thing for longer than we've been alive, and probably you guys too. And
did he start with My Neighbor Totoro?
He started with like miniatures, just like Walt Disney.
Right. And Grave of the Fireflies.
Yeah, like Mickey Mouse, just Steamboat Willie and stuff like. So he's got animated shorts and tons of stuff from years before Ghibli started, and then Ghibli started, and he became sort of the man behind all of those. So, but yeah, My Neighbor Totoro is kind of his E.T., I guess you could say his flagship.
He also did the Castle of Cagliostro, which doesn't even fit in with like his other stuff. It's like it's a spy comedy.
Yeah, well,
like a James Bond comedy.
Ponyo is probably his most kid-friendly. Like you could have like 4 or 5-year-olds sit down.
Yeah, Ponyo.
And watch that.
Have you ever seen that? It's like the Japanese take on My Little Pony, on The Little Mermaid.
It's a Japanese take on He-Man.
Yeah, it's kind of the Japanese version of The Little Mermaid, except instead of mermaid, it's a little goldfish.
And Thundercats.
And it's from these 2 little kids.
2 little kids.
But it's a great movie.
Very innocent. Very. Oh, it's Tina Fey.
Tina Fey
was voicing the English.
Matt Damon.
Right.
Whole bunch of people.
And
that's the thing about Miyazaki films is, I would say Miyazaki films is one of the only type of foreign films where I would say you should watch the dubbed version, because any time that you're reading subtitles, it takes your eye away from because literally every frame is a hand-drawn work of art.
Painted. And that's what the movie we're talking about, or I'm talking about today, is called When Marnie Was There. It came out in 2014, so it's very recent, and actually potentially Ghibli's last film.
But it wasn't directed by Miyazaki.
It wasn't directed by Miyazaki, but still, because he's stepping away,
but
and
these people are carrying the torch for him.
Well, there's a whole lot of political, basically money. You know how it goes with movies and studios and stuff like that. There's money and there's ownership and there's pride, and he's 75, 76. Miyazaki.
Keep talking.
And so, this potentially could be, and a lot of people are worried that it is their last film. Imagine if Disney wasn't doing films anymore, that sort of thing. But the story is when Marnie was there. Story about a young girl who is kind of a misfit, not an outcast, not crazy or so, just in badly need of some friends. She's had a rough time, and she has people who care about her, but no one sort of her age. And she's got family members. She was adopted, and there are people who care about her, but she's still feeling kind of isolated and alone.
Fit in, really.
Yeah, okay. And in this movie, she stumbles upon a abandoned mansion and finds a young girl there who she starts to become friends with, but you're not sure if she's real or if she's make believe, just her imagination or something else.
All right.
But to go along with Studio Ghibli's patented and standard, just incredible artwork. They're all hand painting this stuff, and the animation is top notch. Also, the storyline, while centered for and around two young girls, about 8 to 10ish, I would say.
Okay.
It's not. What would you say? It's not. It doesn't pull punches.
Doesn't talk down to
it's
okay.
They deal with and talk about nightmares, friendship, both gaining and losing friends.
Okay.
There's touch of not bullying the way we would consider it. Let's call it like getting teased a lot, sort of leading up to bullying. Okay. So not quite that dark. We're not talking Columbine or anything like that type level of stuff. Just more feelings.
Right.
But it covers a vast array of emotions and feelings, and it's one of those things where if you're child, you're watching. One is it's great for adults. It's just a really good story.
Yeah.
But if you also have a child who's bigger than Sesame Street and Veggie Tales and stuff like that, but still not Goosebumps, just that sort of middle ground where they've gotten older, but they're still not young adults yet.
Right. Okay.
This is perfect for that. It's something you can watch with them. They'll get most of it and completely understand because it's simple topics, friendship and fear and happiness and love. But if they have any questions, you would be able to understand and explain it to them.
Yeah.
There are a couple of plot points where it gets a little tricky, but by the end of it, it's all explained.
Okay. That's good enough.
Yeah. It's one of those. It's kind of like an intelligent children's film. It's like the next step up from Sesame Street. Sesame Street, when you're young, they just lay it all out on the line. It was like ABCs and 1, 2, 3s and tying your shoes and everything. They just did a good job, perfect job for doing that.
But you need something in the middle before you get to like Hunger Games or some of the maybe Pixar
and
kind of stuff.
And it's tough because a lot of kids think they're ready for that. Older brothers or sisters, or they see the bigger kids doing that, and they're like, I can do that. I'm ready for that, and they're not quite there yet.
They see something they shouldn't watch, and then they get scarred for life.
Right. I've been there.
Yeah.
But it's one of those things where box office, it made $34 million, but that's worldwide.
Yeah.
It got a limited release.
Mostly in Japan
and Europe. The limited release here, so there are a lot of people who still missed it.
I missed it. I have not seen this movie. I had never even heard of it, so I'm glad to hear about this movie.
Yeah. So definitely, it's got International Children's Film Awards. Chicago, whatever, Cannes. You can look that up. English voice cast. You can watch it with subtitles, but if you don't want to, we've got voicing it Gina Davis, Ellen Bernstein, Vanessa Williams, John C. Reilly from Wreck-It Ralph.
It's a solid cast.
Yeah. So you're good on that front. You can leave the English dub on and just watch the beautiful animation and a really good story. So that's my pick and suggestion for you.
I feel like that's kind of the mark of a one of the trademarks of the Studio Ghibli films is that when they do the American version,
Yeah.
they go out of their way to cast the right actors.
Yeah.
Like with The Wind Rises had Joseph Gordon-Levitt, I think William H. Macy, and Werner Herzog.
Werner Herzog.
And Kiki's Delivery Service, Kirsten Dunst, Phil Hartman. They do it right. It's not like they're just hiring someone to come in and read the lines.
Yeah.
They hire an American cast they hire great actors.
Good voices, good solid people who understand the characters and the story, and will translate it for you. But yeah, so that's my pick. When Marnie was there, Studio Ghibli, potentially their last one. So don't sleep on them. If you have, check it out. Check out their other stuff if you would like to. But yeah, definitely check that out. And my man Cam's got a pick for you.
I will say one more thing about Studio Ghibli is like they kind of, whatever age your child is, there's a movie that they'll like. So if you got like a young daughter, she's gonna love Ponyo or
yep.
Kiki's Delivery Service or My Neighbor Totoro.
Yep.
If you've got a son who's maybe a little bit older, he's gonna love The Wind Rises. He's gonna love Princess Mononoke. Princess Mononoke, I'd say, is probably the most extreme. I think that one was actually PG-13.
Yeah.
There's a lot of violence and killing.
And I would put The Wind Rises beyond that because that's
because of the tone.
Yeah, that's their more.
It's more of a drama.
Biopic.
Yeah,
biopic.
Yeah, less cartoonish.
Yeah.
I was telling Huru, I feel like out of any Miyazaki film that they ever done, The Wind Rises is probably the only one that could have been done as a live action film.
As a live action.
It would have just been crazy expensive because it's essentially just a World War I drama with little to no. There's one dream sequence, but there's no fantasy elements.
Yeah, really. About aviation technology.
Yeah,
basically, and
basically planes
engineers who design planes.
Yeah, those first people that were like, hey,
yeah,
these planes would be good in war.
Yeah,
let's do something about that.
About that. And a guy who doesn't want to do that.
Right.
Yeah. It's brilliant.
It's a great movie.
Like 95 to 98% of the stuff Studio Ghibli did is brilliant. And whatever that stuff that's not brilliant is, I can't think of at the moment.
I can't either. And with Miyazaki, I would like, if I were to make a list of Miyazaki's films, whatever I put at the bottom would still be better than 90% of other movies. It would just be at the bottom compared to the other ones. But it would still be, they would all be tied for first, basically.
There you go.
So, yeah.
Take it for what you will, or what it is. And it is what we're given. Top notch.
And what was the name of it again?
When Marnie Was There. 2014, so recent. It should be out there on your various digital media tentacles. Go grab one.
Wish we could say go to your local video store and rent it. That's no longer a sentence.
Shout out to Avid Video.
Avid Video.
What up? We feel your pain.
The last video store in the Triangle.
In the area.
That just went out to my knowledge. As far as I know, it was the last video store in the Triangle.
Cheers.
And they recently closed up shop. Avid Video. If anybody out there who ever worked at Avid Video was watching, we feel your pain. We know what you went through.
So what do you got for us? What you got?
Today, I am going to be talking about a movie called Sky High. Now, this is one that was a little more probably well known. It was a Disney film.
Who's in that?
Live action. A better question is who's not in it. Because this movie
is President Barack Obama in it?
I think he had a cameo, but he was a senator at the time. But this movie, when we talk about movies that your kids will enjoy for one reason and then adults will enjoy for another reason, this is a perfect example of that. And I would say it's probably not for young kids. It's rated PG, but it's about superheroes and villains and stuff. So there is some violence. There's some fighting. It's all relatively tame, but parts of it do get a bit much. So I would say 9 or 10 or 11 years old would kind of be the cutoff for this because, like I said, there is a bit of violence in it. It was made in 2005 by Mike Mitchell. I almost said Greg Mitchell because he used to work on a show that Huru and I both love called Greg the Bunny. This guy has not a lot of credits.
Greg the Bunny? Yeah.
He directed for Greg the Bunny. He also directed for that show Cartoon Sushi on MTV, and the old Nickelodeon show Kablam.
Kablam!
If there are any 30 and 40 somethings out there who grew up watching Kablam, which was basically the precursor to Robot Chicken.
Robot Chicken!
If you've never seen Kablam, check it out. Mike Mitchell used to direct for that. He hasn't done a lot since Greg the Bunny. He did the fourth Shrek movie, and he was co-director on the last SpongeBob movie they did. He did the live action segments in the last SpongeBob movie.
That last SpongeBob movie did pretty well.
Yeah, it was a good movie, and he directed all the bits where they went into the real world. That was all him. This movie is basically, it's a lot like kind of Harry Potter meets X-Men. It's much like Harry Potter. Sons and daughters of superheroes and supervillains go to a special school called Sky High. And it's literally like on an island that floats up in the clouds. And it's kind of like it's a lot like Harry Potter. I'm not gonna say it's the most original movie in the world. It's just really good. You're divided into like you're either in the hero class or you're a sidekick, and and
sidekick.
They call hero. Their politically correct term is hero support.
You're
either
support.
hero
That's
or
right.
you're hero support.
I'm support.
But this movie is this movie for me. It's all about the cast. It's a really well-made movie. It's funny. It zips along, but the cast is amazing. It's I think it's one of those movies, kind of like Fast Times or Dazed and Confused. It was a career launcher for a lot of people. It's got Mary Elizabeth Winstead is in it, who went on to be in Scott Pilgrim vs. the World, Death Proof. She's now in 10 Cloverfield Lane. Danielle Panabaker, who was in The Crazies, and check my notes here. She currently plays Caitlin Snow on The Flash and Arrow, and she played Penny on that show Justified. It's got Kevin Heffernan. If you don't know that name, you will know his face. He played Farva in Super Troopers. He's a member of the Broken Lizard comedy troupe.
Yeah.
It's got Bruce Campbell as the gym teacher.
Come on. Do we have to tell you who Bruce Campbell is?
Yeah.
We better not.
We shouldn't have to.
We're just going to move on.
Cloris Leachman plays the school nurse. Any fans of the show Community, it features Jim Rash, who played Dean Pelton.
We're fans.
Huge fans of Community. If you like Dean Pelton, he's in it. And there's Linda Carter, the TV's Wonder Woman.
Of course.
She's in it. Kevin McDonald and Dave Foley are in this movie. So you've got 40%.
That's right.
You've got 40% of the kids in the hall in this movie. Which is pretty good.
That's pretty good.
You're not going to get that. You're not going to get that anywhere else.
Yeah.
The main kid is Michael Angelano. He was in The Forbidden Kingdom with Jackie Chan and Jet Li. He was in Red State, that amazing Kevin Smith movie. He was in Gentlemen Broncos, which I feel is an underrated little comedy. Came out a few years back. And Kelly Preston and Kurt Russell play the main kid's parents. And that cast should get you right there. Because
it should, but
it should.
Imagine if it didn't.
If it didn't, I can't imagine me just rattling off that list of people and somebody out there be like, yeah, none of those people do it for me. So it's like, all right, then this movie's not for you.
Amount of juice.
It's very, very funny. Basic, like I said, kids who was thirsty. Kids who are the sons of either superheroes or in some cases supervillains, and once they get past the age of puberty, they start to come into their powers. They send off to this school, and this school teaches them how to use their powers, and if their power is kind of lame, they become a sidekick. If their power is super impressive, they become a hero. And it's got a great... it's got a good soundtrack, a lot of 80s music. It's...
Wait, now let me just throw this out there.
Yeah,
we
jump
say
in, 'cause you've seen this movie.
80s movies. Well, I'm trying to remember. Well, a lot of times when you see like 80s CDs, I'm like, this has 80s music on it. It's very specific. It means new wave.
Right.
Did it have any hip hop on there? Because Run DMC is 80s.
I agree.
So if it says new wave, all right, that's different. If it says 80s, then it should have like Well, it can't have the big three: Michael Jackson, Prince, and Madonna. It probably wouldn't have that on there just because they own all their stuff and they just
Right,
don't want it.
yeah.
But Run DMC, and I'm trying to remember what was on the soundtrack. Who was on the soundtrack?
Like Tears for Fears. I think
Okay.
maybe Oingo Boingo.
Oingo
So you'd be right. It's
So-
more like post-punk, new wave. kind of stuff.
New wave.
But
So
and if I'm not mistaken, most of it's they're not they're covers of these 80 songs, but it's well done. So I feel like the people who made this movie were kind of marketing it towards like an older crowd as well as kids by throwing in stuff like that, and by casting Kurt Russell and Bruce Campbell and Cloris Leachman and the Kids in the Hall,
which they
and all these
probably
people.
were, because they were like, all right, we covered these people, and they'll all pay, and that's more money,
Yeah,
more money.
And anytime I feel like, I mean, neither of us are parents, but I feel like one of the tricks to raising a child is like taking them to see a movie just to shut them up for 90 minutes. But
When the shot collar doesn't work anymore,
exactly,
take them to a movie.
yeah, and when you get the funny looks for having your kid on a leash,
Yeah.
take them to a movie. But this is one of those movies that like parents will enjoy too. You'll enjoy it for the cast, for the jokes, and it's got a good message. It's got a good message about acceptance and learning to be who you are. They do a good job of like making the kids well-rounded. Like there's the one girl that Danielle Panabaker plays. She's a total hippie chick. She's a vegetarian. She has these amazing superpowers that she chooses not to use because she doesn't want to hurt people. So she actually ends up becoming she ends up getting lumped in with the hero support just because she chooses not to display her superpowers because she feels like she shouldn't have to. So this is one of those movies that it's got a good message, but it doesn't necessarily like beat you over the head with it. It's just more like be who you are, accept people who are different, and then there's nothing cooler or stronger than like sticking up for your friends, and like I feel like the message is like always have your friends back.
It's weird. The movie you're talking about would be considered or thrown in like the superhero genre, but it's not like any of the superhero movies that are out. Like
and it's
that.
a completely original. It's like it wasn't based on a comic book or anything. It's a completely original thing, and it did good at the box office. It wasn't a huge hit. It made back its budget and then some, but I feel like it was made just it came out in 2005, and the kind of superhero comic book craze started to happen around 2007 or 2008, so I feel like it was maybe made just a couple years too early. But when I saw this movie, and I didn't even see it in theaters. We caught it at Vizar. It was just one of the movies we just took home because of the cast, mostly because of Kurt Russell, because Kurt Russell's a friggin' man.
Kurt Russell.
But my first thought when watching this movie is I was like, well, they're definitely making sequels to this. This will be like the new Harry Potter. This will be like a franchise. But they only did the one, so it's just a little standalone film. I can't say enough good things about this movie. It's hilarious. And I want to go back when I was talking about the cast. The kid, we've recently watched a movie called Freaks of Nature. And the guy who played the main kid, he was Zack Attack, the super tall kid with the platinum blonde hair.
Oh, that's right.
Who talked like a hip hop, he was kind of like Eminem. He was like the white boy who talked really street.
Jeez.
But he's hilarious in the movie.
Why I put him out of my memory.
But he and that kid, and like I said, with like career launching, that kid has gone on to be in Freaks of Nature, Perks of Being a Wallflower.
Yeah.
He's in the Tina Fey's new movie Whiskey Tango Foxtrot. He's so like there's a lot of people who are in this movie, a lot of the younger actors who this was like their first movie or their first big role, now they're working nonstop.
Yeah.
So it launched a lot of careers. I feel like it maybe revived a few careers. Because
Jennifer Lawrence was in there too, wasn't she? No.
No.
Okay.
Nah, I don't remember her being.
What? Nah, just stick her in there. She's in everything.
We'll say she was in it.
Jennifer Lawrence and Natalie Portman are in there too.
And Barack Obama.
Sure. And Barack Obama.
We got like a minute or two left here, so I want to say like we discussed our movies, but another thing I want to talk about since we've got a minute is I want to just say I highly recommend the new Peanuts movie. If you haven't, like we don't really talk about a lot of big hit films on this show because we figure you probably already know about it or you probably already saw it. But if you haven't seen the new Peanuts movie,
Charlie Brown.
go check it out.
Charlie
it's
Brown.
like it is it's CG,
Chuck.
and so they did update the animation, but they didn't update the tone and the mood.
Snoopy, Peppermint Patty,
It's-
Lucy.
It's
Sally.
exactly the way you remember it from your
Linus.
childhood. Check it out.
Wah, 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 wah.
Translation: go see it. It is really good.
Yeah.
So on that note, I'm gonna say I am Cameron Price.
And I am Franklin from Charlie Brown.
Yes.
And we'll see you again, and we'll try and do better next time.
All right.
All right.
Good night.